Good afternoon, potato chips. How you doing? It's wee Paddy from across the shuck, and I hope you're all doing well. Um, Another wee video today, and this one is on my beautiful Tony Bose vintage. I'll get this up so you can see. It's my Tony Bose vintage sow belly. There we go. There's all the details there. It's the Tony Bose TB39. The full number is VTB, which is vintage Tony Bose 6339ss for stainless steel. That's that one there. That's just an item number. And it's the sow belly vintage. I don't really know what's vintage about it. This is bone which has been cut and dyed to look like stag. I think it's beautiful. I really do think it's genuinely beautiful. And it's funny, these would have been more the expensive line of case. And they really don't go to a whole lot of effort to make you feel special, do they? But there we go. It's the knife that's the most important thing. And this is a gorgeous looking knife. Look at that. Now, this bone design on the back, and they're burnt or whatever way they do the dyeing to make them look like stag, is beautiful. The front wasn't so much. It was much, much lighter. If you go back in my Instagram to when I got it, this front was much, much lighter. I wanted it to look more like the back, so I took one of these Sharpie chappies, coloured in very roughly and very randomly, bits that were very, very light, and I think it looks much better. It suits the back now. Now, I left it for about 3 days after I'd done it, didn't touch it, and it came out pretty good. I might have to do it again. I don't mind. It's just my knife. This is one that's for my collection that will not be leaving and will get very light use, but it is a beautiful, beautiful knife. So let's have a wee walk around the knife. As you can see, it's the sow belly, which means that it's got that big belly. You can see that belly there. Oh, take your hand away. You can see that belly there. And what that does, for me, it allows the blades to sit down lower. A lot of Stockmans, I don't like because the blades sit up, especially this middle one, sits up very high. The ends of them are usually sitting up high, so it doesn't make for a very comfortable knife. This is beautifully done. All the tail ends are pretty much tucked in, so it's not going to affect how you hold the knife. And the middle blade, which, to be honest, is one of the best working blades you can get on a knife, I think. And that's the sheep's foot. It's just so good. And look how wide that is. And we'll show some other ones later on. That is a really lovely flat ground, just absolutely to a T. This is case at their best. And they can produce great knives. Oh, by the way, I got my white gloves on. It's so good because you don't have to wipe down everything. The back blade is a spay blade, which was for neutering animals. As you know, I love the way it sits down in this, because when you want to get it underneath something, you can go down and scoop up. It makes it perfect for that job. I don't do much neutering, but, oh, sorry. And here's the main clip blade. What a beautiful clip. That really is just gorgeous. I really love it. Full glossy blades. Tiny little bit of rubbing, but not much, to be honest. Stockman's and, multi-bladed knives, the fact that they might rub, yes, it's a bit annoying. Yes, if it's a collection piece, it doesn't look great. But that's not why I'm buying the knife. Yes, it would be perfect if everything was perfect in life. And I'm going to do a little video tomorrow on what do you expect when you buy a pocket knife. Now, my attitude has changed over time, so I'll give you that bit of a head up. But look, let's talk about this one just for now. This is beautiful. The bolsters are lovely. The meat up is perfect. There's nothing catching. These are little fine gloves. They would catch in anything. Look at that back spine. Isn't that just beautiful? Now, this isn't cases top-end knives. This is a step up from the everyday production sort of knife, because it's a Tony Bose one, and they tend to put a bit more effort into the Tony Bose. But there's one above this, which I've got one in there. Now, it's not a Stockman, but it is even nicer to hold. And you can tell the feel. Is the knife good by the feel of it? I think there is. When you get something like this in hand and you feel how well and how much effort's been put into it to make it look so nice is really, really important. Really important. And the Stockman, the 3 blades, look, we get knives in our collections that are... This is a proper working knife, and this should be used to do work. I just have other knives that I'll use to do. This will do maybe light work, because I just love it for me to look at, and I get out and I touch it and I rub it, and that's part of my collecting. I have Stockmans, other Stockmans, that I would use before this for any dirty hard work. Just truth. And I think that's where we have to... What are you? Are you a collector? Are you a knife user? And can you be both? And the answer is yes. Of course you can. You can be whatever you want. It's your money you spent on the knife, so you can be absolutely anything you want. And I fall into that category where I'm a knife user, albeit light. I'm still a knife user, but I'm also a collector now. I wasn't so much in the beginning. I used everything. But now as I'm putting more effort into finding these beautiful knives and spending the money to get these beautiful knives, I've become a collector as well, and I do baby a lot of them, no doubt about it. But I still get them out and look at them on a regular basis. I really do. I do sit at night. I am one of those weirdos that sits and takes a blade open, sits and I stare and I look back at it, and I just love the touch of them. And a lot's to do with it. This is a tool that man has had for hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years. And it's, to me, there's something really Neanderthal about a knife. You know, it really is a knife that, you know, in its past was used so much for everyday life. We don't use them that much now. Well, I'm going to speak for over here in the UK. There's very few people carry knives because of all the nonsense. I'm one of those that doesn't agree with the nonsense. And I do carry my knives. And I enjoy carrying my knives. So, would I recommend getting this? Now, this is from 2001. And when you look at it and look at them springs, and you can tell by this knife that it has been used a lot. But I wonder how many times it's actually been opened and closed. Probably more than a work knife. Do you know what I mean? It's, you know, because somebody's taken this out, like I do, admired it, and you open it 30, 40 times sitting in your front room at night time. That might have been 2 or 3 days in a work where you take it out, cut something, work with it, put it back. So, and there's not a hint of a gap. And if there was a little gap in it, would it be the end of the world? No, it wouldn't be the end of the world. You know, it's a 21-year-old knife, but it's looking $1 million. So I want to talk a little bit about Stockmans. I showed you the blades. We'll take the blades out on this one. I don't want to really start taking all the blades out on the Stockmans I've got here because it's just too much time. Sorry, I'm just opening these up now. Oh. So this is what I would call your average Stockman that you get. You get a clip point, you get a sheep's foot, and you get a spay blade. You can see the tiny wee bit of rubbing there on that spay. Can you? Yeah, you can see that little bit of rubbing. But it really genuinely doesn't matter. It's a 3-blade knife and it's built really, really well. So there's my Stockman. Let's put that there. Now, the other knives you got behind you are all Stockmans. As you can see, they're all different shapes and sizes. This is a case... That would be a larger Stockman. This is a case medium Stockman. And they do a smaller version again. But you've got a clip main. You have a sheep's foot. And on this one, and this is what it's usually the 3rd blade, the last one, at the one at the back that can change shape. This isn't CV and a very used Stockman. This is a working Stockman. It's got a pen blade rather than a spay blade, which a lot of people like and would choose that Stockman because they get a pen rather than a spay. I like the spay. I have to say, I do like the spay. Is it my favourite one? No, and I'll show you that eventually as we get through it. This one is the Rough Rider version. This is a sowbelly Rough Rider. This has exactly the same display, much thicker type blades on these. You know, the stock is a bit thicker, it's a bit wider, but look at the fit and finish. Absolutely great in this. Is there little gaps? Yes, there is little gaps. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But this cost substantially less than them first two case knives. I mean, that probably costs about 70, £80 over here. Maybe a bit more. I'm not sure. I haven't checked it up. This one I know would cost more. I don't know what this would cost retail. I bought this off a friend who's a friend on Instagram, friend of the channel, and he sold it to me for an amazing price. I think, you know, an amazing price. These are dime a dozen. These are cheap, sort of £20 knives. Cheaper in the States than they are over here, but an absolutely fantastic working knife. Even though it has got, look, these tiny little gaps that I see people getting all for. I'm going to go off on this, I know I am. But the tiny little gaps that people pick on a little knife like this is £15. Get a grip. I mean, these are handmade knives. They are. Rough Riders are handmade knives in a factory over in China by probably very basic, not tradesmen, just people who have been taught how to do it and spend the rest of their lives doing it. And they'll do the same job probably on this knife than all their lives. And that's where the bad rub comes. But it is a fantastic knife for the price. And the blade steel's maybe not as good as some of these other ones, but it's good enough. And you've got three of them. What are you going to do in your average day that's going to use up three blades? Well, in my day, again, you can only speak for yourself. This is a large GEC, and this is the number, I can't remember which one's on. Yeah, it's the number 82. This is from 2018. And its back blade is one of the nicest ones, not the nicest that I like. It's just a little drop point. So the first two are the same, but then this is a drop point. Actually, this is a Warncliffe in the middle, but it's, you know, close to that sheepfoot. But this is an absolute cracking knife. Really is. And I love that there's a difference. So people say they collect Stockmans. I'm not collecting Stockmans. I'm trying to collect Stockmans that have different blade configurations. Here's another GEC. And its different is that its back blade, which again is the usual one, is a punch. Isn't that just gorgeous? It's a really good, useful punch. And this would be more a whittling type knife. This on the front, it has a sheep's foot as the minor blade to the main clip point. So this is definitely, it's a stockyard whittler, it's called. It's just gorgeous, the 29. Really beautiful. Again, different blade stock. So that's where I am with collecting in Stockmans. I'm really happy to have this. Look, over here in the UK, we find it quite hard to get the older knives, and especially the old American knives. And I really would love to get. I've been watching. Well, his name's gone out of my head, but he was showing the old vintage Winchester that were made by Queen. The chances of me getting like something like that over here is next to impossible, because they just don't come up. They really don't, unless you know somebody who's got some. But I keep my eyes out all the time looking for, and then you get a chance to buy something like this, which is a 20-year-old case. They don't come up very often over here. I mean, these are as like hen's teeth as GEC to get something like this over here, because you need to be in the right place to get something. This is not going to turn up on Etsy. But a beautiful, beautiful knife. And I'm really, really enjoying it. You know, it's a standard, and I know we all start to throw them about, you know, is this the same standard as GEC? Look, it's as good as any GEC, really. And it's a case. You know, when you know where you're getting your cases from and you can pick them, and when I want to spend big money, this I bought off a chum. He had used it. That's where the patina mostly came from. But I use it now, and I bought it as a user. but I bought it because it had that nice serpentine shape and it was a lovely size of a Stockman. This I bought because it was a Tony Bose, and because I know Case tend to put a really smart fit and finish on Tony Bose knives, and I was getting it from a friend who said it was perfect. I'm quite happy to believe that was from a friend. And he was exactly right. So I thank him so much for selling it to me at a really, really reasonable price that I was more than happy to pay. So there we go. That's my little Case Stockman and my little story about Stockmans. You can collect all the same brand, and I could go on and collect a whole lot of different sowbellies. Now that might happen in the future, that I'll get more sowbellies because I like working with them in hand, and that's the only working one I have. I might, if I got a GEC or a Case more working sowbelly, I might try one of those with different blade configurations. My speech is terrible. I will get it. So my hobby is more getting different brands, but getting different configurations in the brands rather than having just, I've had 5 Stockmen sitting here that were all the same shape, same size, and I know a lot of people love doing that, and there's nothing wrong with it, but I can only talk for me. This is what I like, is getting and looking and spending the time to get something that's just that little bit different from the next one beside it. That gives me more joy in my collecting. But I do worry that we're getting to the stage now where we're getting Rough Riders, and because there's a wee gap in the back, we're sending them back again. And look, I have been guilty of it in the back, but the more I get to realise that this is a blooming £20 knife, for goodness sake. It's handmade, put together by hand. Blades are bent to fit in by hand. A little gap on the back, as long as it doesn't affect anything to do with the knife. Oh, look, it's got half stops on it. It walk and talk, absolutely fine. Stop being, I'm not telling you to stop, but I've stopped being so pernickety, and I want to try and do that more often and be a bit more understanding of the process of hand fitting a knife. GEC, I expect more from, because to me, they are proper cutlers who are in there making a knife by hand, and they do probably more hand finishing and hand working than any other knife. Now you've got to take custom out of the way. But these are handmade by people who are trained to make knives. They're cutlers. They're artisans, and they take pride in their work because it's a very small company that hasn't expanded. Case are a huge concern, and they send thousands and thousands upon knives every week. Most people who are buying a Case knife walk into the shop, I like that colour, I'll have that. They don't check to see whether there's a little gap in the back. When they open it, they'll open it up, and if it opens and closes nicely, sounds good, that's them, they're happy. They take that knife off, use it to death, come back when it's done, or they've lost it, buy another. We as collectors have got really, really pernickety about medium-priced and low-priced knives. If you go onto the dark side where the locking knives and all are, they're paying £500 now. And so many channels are working with £500 knives. Now, if I spent £500, yeah, you better believe that I'm going to be pernickety. You better believe there better not be any gaps in it. The blades shouldn't be rubbing. But we're paying knives, GECs, when you buy them from the shop, they're at, 100 to 150, 160. That's pretty fair for a handmade knife. When you think of the time, when you break down how long it would take you to make one knife, that's a lot of work going into that knife. And if the man's putting it together and he can't just get that last wee bit out, is it that bad really if the rest of the knife is perfect? No, not in my eyes now. But as a collector, I collect knives and keep the knives that are perfect. There you go. Right, I don't know where that came from. Right, Paddy's away. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to do a rant video. Bye-bye.